Welcome to episode 111 of Beer with Strangers. I'm your host, Tony Russo, and I'm joined this week as I'm joined each week by...
Hi, Doug Griffith, Extreme Brewing here, and I'll start off with the normal weather report. Nice out today. His sun is finally out for, I think, the first time. Well, it's not the first time, but it's been out for a while today for a decent amount of time. And this is the first halfway decent day we've had in the last week.
Yeah, it's been rainy, and it looks like it's going to be rainy again, but we're going to tough through it. Speaking of rain or shine, possibly rain, but mostly hopefully shine. The beer festival is on this weekend.
It's a go. Looks like the hurricane's not going to make it this far north, hopefully.
Right. So the Good Beer Festival, that is in Pemberton Park in Salisbury. You can still get tickets. They are, I think, $35 in advance and can be purchased if you go to goodbeerfestival.org or com.
Yeah.
Type goodbeerfestival. Anything, and you'll get it.
It shows up.
All sorts of fun stuff this week. I had an opportunity to kind of redo some of the stuff we've been doing. So, for instance, we're back on Google Hangouts. If you're listening to this on the podcast, if you're listening on iTunes, you guys can always check in with us now on the on Google Hangouts. Just go to the shortcraftbeer.com website and click on the link, and it'll bring you to the video in case you want to see what we look like when we're talking. We're supposed to be doing video, so we're doing video. And that's where we are with that. Starting off with the homebrew stuff this week, there was a fun article that I thought we could talk about together.
Yes. About potential problems, and maybe the fact that you started out great brewing and over time you become more lax. And there was an article in
Brewing and Beer and Brewing
by Libby Murphy, and I think I assume it's a lady that wrote this. The things she wrote are very typical of things you may forget. Least but not important, or it's still important, is forgetting to label your bottles. I've done that plenty of times. You think you know what you got, you put a little label on the top of the box and it gets lost, and you have those mystery beers, which all happen occasionally, but generally they're still drinkable, and you just may get something you're not expecting. But yep, we've probably all done that at one point in time.
There's I believe it's a Buffalo Wild Wings type restaurant. I don't know if it's not a Buffalo Wild Wings, but I believe it's a chain restaurant in that vein. And they do like craft beer. And one of the things they do every month is they have an actual mystery beer where the distributor just puts it on tap and no one knows what it is. And they're like, you order it and take your chances.
Yeah. But it's going to be good. It's just not going to be the style you may want, but it gets you tasting different things anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, if you go out and you buy like a bunch of like onions or hot nuts or something, and you're looking for something nice, like a cool crisp IPA, and then you get I don't know, a Blackfin Blackfin IPA. It's not
or stout or something.
It's not a coffee stout,
but it gets you tasting new things. So
right.
That's
label your beers.
Yeah, exactly. And probably I consider this maybe the worst, but it's not taking notes, because if you don't take notes and you end up with the fabulous beer that
you don't know how you got it.
Yeah, exactly.
And so what kind of notes do you take when you're making?
Well, generally it's more important with all grain, but still with even with regular extract brews, part of it is temperature for fermentation. You can ferment at a specific temperature, which gives you much more consistent flavors. And I think that, to me, is one of the biggest things home brewers can do, is have consistent fermentation temperature, because you vary by 5 degrees and it's going to change the taste of the beer.
That's crazy,
especially on ales.
And so I know that you guys have like bands that you put around. Is that a common way to control it?
That's to heat it up if it's too cool. Typically we put it in a converted freezer to maintain usually about 65, 66, 67 degree fermentation temperature.
Mm-hmm.
It just helps to regulate that temperature, because fermentation does give off some heat. And if it's warm already, it's going to even get hotter. And the hotter it gets, the more fruity flavors you generally get out of that ale. So, but great consistent fermentation temperatures help with repeatability.
Right.
So,
And-
next is letting the beer sit too long in the fermenter. If you don't maintain it and keep track of it, eventually it's going to spoil.
Oh, I was going to ask about that because that's one of the bars to home brewing for me is knowing how I will have to remember to like I made it, yay, and then it's like it's time to keg it or bottle it. I'm like, I mean, my pool is still not covered.
Oh, well, mine isn't too
I've
either.
been
So,
covering my pool every weekend for the last month.
but yeah, it's time.
Yeah.
In fact, I went the other day to do that, and I can't find my cover, so I had to order that, and hopefully I'll have it sometime this weekend. But anyway,
they're cheap now because they used to be like $1 million, and now they're like, whatever,
Yeah.
$70. You can throw it out every year for the price of having to store it.
I mean, yeah. So anyway,
I'm sorry, but I didn't mean to
Getting
get
off-
distracted.
we're getting
from
off
it.
topic here.
But,
Anyway,
so letting it ferment too long. Now, what does spoiled beer taste like?
generally what I have seen is if I've not racked it within a 2-week period, you'll start getting a fine white film on top of the beer, which are some bacteria or wild yeast that's gotten in it, probably bacteria, and eventually it's going to cause that beer to have off flavors. If you see it, you should rack it as soon as possible or get a bottle as soon as possible. I usually like to not leave my beer in a bucket like you see sitting around here
Right.
longer than 2 weeks. I believe they leave in air, oxygen over a period of time. As long as fermentation's going, which is generally somewhere between 7 and 10 days, generally, it's fine. But beyond that period of time, it's going to start allowing oxygen, which oxygenates the beer, and also that oxygen contributes to the formation of bacteria, the growth of bacteria.
Right, I forgot about it because in the beginning the CO2 that it's giving off pushes everything out of the bottle.
And another one of the topics of the things to remember to do is to oxygenate your beer. Beer needs, or the yeast needs, a certain amount of oxygen to metabolize early in the process of fermentation. And if you don't have enough oxygen, there's a slow start, which again can give off bad flavors or stress the yeast more than what it should be. And it just doesn't ferment well and can not complete or just get stuck.
And so is that as simple as just shaking the bucket? Or?
Shaking the bucket, or we generally just pour out of the brew pot,
right,
at a high, 3 feet up. Aerates it as it's poured in, and we find that's generally enough. Yeah, it's cool. Been cooled, so it's down to what fermentation temperature is desired, 68 to 70. And when it's cool, it will absorb some of the oxygens in the air and then ferment. That's our usual method of aeration.
That's what I do instead of aerating my wine. I just hold the bottle way up, and I'm like, it's aerated now.
Yeah. Or you can use a pump or air pump if you really want to oxygenate it. Or a lot of people will actually use a tank of oxygen with a diffuser on it to diffuse oxygen into the wort at that point prior to fermentation. Now,
one of the ones that not taking the gravity readings, how is that different than not taking notes, or is that the same thing?
Well, taking gravity gets you what the alcoholic content of that beer, and also it's going to show over the period of time that fermentation takes to complete. You should see that hydrometer dropping. Sugar content raises the hydrometer in the test vial so that it rises higher. You take that sample so you can see what the specific gravity starts at, and when it finishes, it should be maintaining that same specific gravity over 2 or 3 days, so you can see that it's not changing and know that it's finished.
Cool.
But it also tells you that it has completely finished. It should get down to somewhere generally 1.010 or thereabouts or below, unless you have a higher gravity beer. As the gravity of the beer rises, the finished gravity will generally rise.
Very cool. And
So-
last but not least,
Don't stick anything non-sanitized, such as your hands, your fingers, whatever, in the beer. Sanitize things. Sanitation is clean or next to godliness, and
Right.
just keep things clean. Don't drop your spatula on the ground to pick it up and
stir the beer
Stir the beer. So,
because you're going to be adding stuff that you
but
probably
but
don't want.
that said, if it's boiling, it's going to take care of that. But it's concerns after the boil with things that may get into your beer.
Right. So if you're messing once the boil is over, if you're messing with the beer, mess with it carefully.
Yes,
Or
exactly.
at least
And use your
plentifully.
sanitizers to spray your equipment down and give it. Usually, we use Star San, which generally they recommend about 3-minute contact time before you actually use it. Then, so we'll spray the counter down, spray our whatever you're going to use, whether it's the siphon or the spatula or whatever you need to paddle to stir it. We'll sanitize it and lay it on the counter where we sanitized it already, and in about 3 minutes, and you can use it.
Very
And a
cool.
lot of times you can do that ahead of time so that when you're ready to use it, it's ready to go. So
Yeah, and I noticed that when you guys brew, you literally keep it in a spray bottle.
yes,
So you can.
yes,
So
very
it's
handy.
handy. You don't have to. You don't
Right.
have to mix it every time. So there was another. What was the other? Oh no, there wasn't another homebrew question, but I did want to talk about the Flemish Red just real quick because it was mentioned, and I thought it was cool. I mean, we did talk about the black IPA on the live portion, and if you're listening to this again on iTunes, if you go to our Facebook page for the surecraftbeer.com Facebook page, we've started this week. We're going to begin tasting beers that they make here and talking about what they are and how they're made and things like that. So this week we featured the Blackfin IPA, which is a clone of a local beer, a Fin City beer. And it was awesome. And I just finished drinking it, as you can tell from how red my face gets red immediately. I had 6 ounces of beer. My face is
You
red.
can't say, I didn't have a beer.
Yeah, right. I'm not going to fool anybody. But anyway, you may want to check that out. That's going to be kind of a fun feature that we're going to do, and it's just about 3 or 4 minutes long, so it's not going to take all your time. Which is why we've kind of moved back to.
Do you want to
YouTube.
talk about what Flemish ale
Yes.
is, or it's from a region, North France, Southern Belgium.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think what Flemish ale is, but what's the area? Flanders.
Right.
So it's from an area called Flanders, and I think it goes back. It was very famous during World War I because all the battles that took place in that area. But anyway, the Flemish ale is a beer generally fermented with yeast, but then it's given extra time for it to have the bacteria and the wild strains of yeast act on it. Generally stored for a year, if not more. And then even then, some of the beers are blended with new fermented beer and old fermented beer to get the desired flavors that they're looking for.
Wow.
So the older beers taste older and have more intense flavors and a sourness to it. The new beer is still
Takes
more
the
on
edge
the
off.
sweeter side, yeah, and they blend it to get that desired flavors.
That's a lot of
So-
fun. They Evo did Nouveau Rouge, which is a Flemish ale, and I got a kick out of it. I've always liked the beer, but it occurred to me that I didn't know how that style came
Yeah,
to be.
And I think it's one of the beers that they say tastes closer to wine than actual beer because of
it's
the
so big and
aging
thick.
process
Yeah.
and the act of the wild yeast and bacteria. And when they inoculate it, generally they have a cool ship where they pump the beer into a tower that's basically open to the environment, and the microflora in that area inoculate it with the yeast and bacteria, and through its fermentation process and the aging process, it changes the flavors of the beer.
Very cool.
So
And then last but not least, as long as we're talking about beers in the region, there was a very fun article that we shared this week that was about how saisons are kind of the original local beer. And although sometimes they're thought of as a very specific kind of beer. They weren't always a really specific kind.
And that came from the similar area in southern
Right,
Valois
yeah.
or northern France. And I think at least when I've heard, that was a very popular beer during medieval times when they had the plagues. Farm hands would go from place to place, and it's like today's migrant workers. They would find work as needed, and the farmers needed help harvesting or planting. And if you had good beer, they had better chances of getting good help.
Yeah, the better beer got the better workers,
Right.
which I got a huge
Now,
kick out of.
Traditionally, I understand they made two styles: a daily style and then a style that was stored during the winter. The daily style had low alcohol, and most farm workers got unbelievable 4 liters to 6 liters. That's a
Wow.
gallon to gallon and a half of beer a day. But it was probably only 2%, maybe not even that much.
That's why I call it liquid aspirin.
Yep. So it was made almost on a daily basis, fermented fairly warm, meaning whatever the temperature was that day, 80
That's
or
what it
85, it fermented, and generally it would be done in a couple of days. So it was fresh and probably not in a bottle at all, but it was carbonated because it was still working.
And they spiced it with whatever they had
Right,
handy.
right.
As opposed to anything very specific now. Because now you expect like coriander and
Right. And orange peel, orange of some sort. The second style was something that was generally higher in alcohol and stored over the winter, and probably was used more for festivals in the spring.
Right.
So,
and I want to give a shout out to Third Wave. I can't remember the name of the beer, but they just came out with a highly hopped saison. Did you get a chance to
no,
try
I
that?
didn't.
We were at their anniversary. I had a nice time. A good time was had by all. But they did this highly hopped saison. So it was you just, in addition to the spices, there were plenty of hops in it. And it was a really, really super flavorful beer. It was also like 9%, so you're not going to drink a bunch of them, because saisons. That's the other thing.
That's a special saison.
But I've noticed that there is a difference even in breweries today, where there are some saisons that are 8%, 9%, and there are other ones that are 4 or 5. So
we've made some of the lower alcohol beers, make it on one Saturday, and by the next Saturday have it in the keg and ready to drink.
yeah,
So
you guys do the coffee.
coffee and cream saison, and but we've made just a very simple saison, probably 4%, and it ferments very quick, and fermented at 85 degrees or whatever.
Yeah, whatever you
yeah.
have handy.
And then generally by Thursday of the week, it's fermented, and you get it in the keg, chill it, carbonate it, and
Off
drink
you
it.
go.
And it's fresher the better. So
You did a rosemary and thyme one as well. Is that a saison, or is that what's the
yeah, that would be called PSRT.
right? Yeah.
Similar to what Dogfish Saison de Boeuf,
Mm-hmm.
but it's parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme after the Garfunkel.
Right.
Simon and
That's good
Garfunkel
stuff, too.
tune. Yeah.
The other thing we wanted to talk about, we wanted to actually, I guess, kind of continue to talk about were the hops, and the hop crisis, such as it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Hops are a big topic because of all the new breweries, which I think there are 4,500 breweries, something like
Yeah.
that, 4,600 breweries. It's a moving target.
Right.
Continue to increase. But with all the new breweries out, there is an increased demand, obviously, for hops. And we had a hop shortage about 5 years ago, and we were never not able to get hops. Just couldn't get the hops we wanted sometimes.
Right.
So there was never a problem brewing. You just had to get whatever you could get and use that. But a lot of people started experimenting with the different hops because they couldn't get what they wanted. But there's a lot of new hops coming out, hop programs. Different hop companies have programs to try new things. And they try, and some of it is they're creating the market themselves for certain hops for what they're developing for the craft brew industry.
Yeah,
So,
it is so cool. The idea that there are people right now who are working with hops that we haven't tasted and making like styles of beer that are going to be very, very popular in,
Right.
let's say, a decade, but we don't know anything at all about them now.
they were calling it the push-pull effect.
Right. Yeah.
New hops they have to push, get people to try them. Once it becomes very popular, such as Cascade's been that way for a long time, but we've not ever had any problem getting Cascade. But the newer varieties, such as Amarillo or Citra, that have become very popular because of the advent of the craft brew industry and their continued to push of the IPA environment, which requires more and more hops.
Right.
Some of the more popular strains of new hops have been in short supply sometimes.
Now, is it likely that would it be a valuable hop that you could use for both bittering and aromatic?
Yeah, a lot of the new varieties are both aromatic and bittering hops. So yes, you can use, although if they're short in supply, they probably would only use them for the aroma hop or the finish hop. They're going to use whatever the cheapest thing they can find
to do the bittering.
To do the bittering, right?
That's fun because then that's where you get all these different flavors.
Well, the bittering hop, you're not going to taste much. It just it boils off all of the aromatics, and the boil gets rid of most of the flavor. So traditionally, the three hop additions: the bitter, the flavor, and the aroma come into effect. And the bittering hop, they're going to use whatever is cheapest, and the flavor and the aroma may be the same.
Mm-hmm.
But
so keep your eye out for new beers in the coming 5 years or so, and it would be cool to see what we'll continue to follow this story as it develops, but it'll be really cool to see how new beers kind of start, like when these new hops start coming out, what people are doing with them, and because
and don't save your IPAs to compare this year against next year because they change.
Right.
So
and also IPAs aren't good for storage, right?
The hops diminish over time, and if you want the most effect of what the brewery wanted you to taste in the beer, drink it as fresh as possible.
So. Very cool. We also want to talk a little bit about the tax cut. Recently, the Congress has passed or is on the verge of passing a tax.
They agreed on something.
Yeah, right. They agreed one law, but there's a tax cut that is going to make it. That's going to reduce the luxury tax on beers, the short version. The last time they cut it for small breweries from 9 to 7, and now I
don't call that a luxury tax. That's a necessity tax.
It is a necessity tax. But now it's I think $3.50 instead of $7. I think they cut it all the way in half,
which is great for the small guy because it's on volume. So the small guy pays $3.50, where you meet a certain amount of volume, and then you're paid $7, and I think it even goes up higher than that after 14 or 16 for the big guys.
Yeah. So. And what I said in the blog, and I'll repeat here, is that Budweiser and are also going to really benefit only because they pay so much tax. They're going to have a lot more expendable capital. But I think of the breweries that are borderline, especially the first 2 or 3 years they're open, where they're kind of struggling as it is. And I'm sure extra couple bucks is going to help them.
I'm sure the big guys have been against this too, because it gives the little guy the advantage slightly.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think they would ever publicly say that they were against the tax cut. the shareholders certainly wouldn't like to hear that. But that actually kind of ties into the next story, which is the fallout from the Budweiser merger with Miller. Did you get a chance to take a look at that one?
Yeah, but I don't remember. I mean, it's same thing going on. We don't know what's going to happen. Don't know the effects of what's going to happen, because Bud and Miller's going to try to get as much shelf space, especially on the brewery or the beer coolers in the liquor stores. That's always been an issue. The craft guy is going to get pushed to the side.
Well, what was interesting, something that I was excited about when they first announced it, was that there was a cap on the number of they eliminated Budweiser, for example, can no longer offer incentives to distributors to push Budweiser. And they can only have, I think it's 10% of their beers, their beers sold by, these distributors. But what's the two downsides that weren't clear to me until I got a chance to take a look at this article. Downside number one is they can still buy up distributors as much as they want. And downside number two is there's no limit to the number of craft breweries they can buy, which makes it a little bit more clear why people are getting a little irked when brewers sell out, because as it says in the article, if you go in a place and they have 30 beers on tap, you're like, wow, that's a lot of selection, but all 30 beers might be owned by the same.
So if you can't beat them, you got to buy them out.
And so fighting for tap handles is going to be a continuing problem. And
but still, I think the local guy is going to have the advantage locally over the big guys.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Going in and seeing, going in and talking to the owners, like those salespeople around here, they're.
But still here, I mean, we've got 13 breweries now locally, and
26.
Oh, it's 26.
Yeah.
But not everybody's distributing yet.
Not everybody's distributing,
so.
And that's the other thing. As they keep saying there's more room for brewers, but there's not more room on the shelves. And as we talk about this on the show a lot, I'm really interested in the.
But sometimes a brewery, in order to grow, has to distribute because they only can get so many people coming to the brew pub or the brewery that is locally. So the only way to increase sales is
to go out and
distribute.
So it'll be interesting to see. As they said in the article, and as we said, there's no question about whether or not craft beer is going anywhere. But you do want to know who your brewer is, and you do, like I said, drink. Try to stay within 100 miles of where you live.
Yeah.
Try to know your brewer, and support them. Otherwise, if they go away, they go away, and you got nobody to blame but yourself.
And talking about to know your brewer, it's a good opportunity to say Good Beer Festival is here this weekend. All the local brewers will have brewers or owners there to talk about their beers. So come to the Good Beer Festival. You can actually meet the brewers or the owners of the breweries. So it's a big advantage doing local stuff.
Right. Well, the great thing about the way that the Good Beer Festival runs is that they also have talks. You guys are doing a talk and tasting this year. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Patty really has all that information, but we're doing talks and tastings of local breweries and local food providers.
Right.
Some being the brewery themselves, such as Dogfish and Assawaman, are bringing food they've made themselves. There's a company in Berlin that makes cakes. They're coming with their samples, and I think it's Burley. They're
the honey whiskey cake.
We have two distributors. Two
Berlin.
No, we got the Berlin cakes coming with the two local distillers.
Oh, I see.
Beach Time and Baker's.
Oh, right.
Ray Baker distributing or distilling. They're not giving samples there, but you get to taste the cake that has been infused with whiskey. So
that's very cool. We are actually, if you take a look at the blog this week, I'm going to Ray Baker's tomorrow morning.
Oh, okay.
And I'm going to do a story on the Baker's distilling and how he's doing, what he's doing, where you can get the stuff. So if you're interested in getting your hands on some local whiskeys, I hope to be able to tell you where to find that. And then I hope to get, I guess you can't sell me a bottle there, right? I have to find, I'll go where it is and
yes. Yeah, you can't do any local selling.
Right.
You got to get it at the liquor store.
Right. So I'll find the liquor store and I'll tell you where it is and I'll tell you how it tastes. I'm having my own beer festival Saturday night. We talked about this, I think, last week. I'm going to get a couple large format beers and stay home with some cigars and I guess some Baker's whiskey. And that's how I'm going to spend my Saturday afternoon. But I will see you guys on Sunday morning at the homebrew competition. Do you want to?
Well, there's not much to say. I mean, it is occurring, but it's not open to the public. They've got beer judges and stewards are the people who actually get the beers and provide them to the beer judges. But that judging is going on Sunday morning. Like I said, it's not open to the public, but the results will be given, I think it's 4:30 in the afternoon at Sunday's
Good Beer Festival. And they've gone on, right? The people who make these beers usually have, didn't somebody sell one of them or get one of them made, or am I making that up?
I don't remember that. Yeah, I don't know about that. But I think there's almost 70 entrants.
That's fantastic.
70 different beers. Now it's people can put multiples in, but there's 70 entries.
Right.
So.
And that's we're out of time and we're out of things to talk about. So we're in good shape. If you're looking for me, you can find me on my name backwards. It's OSSURYNOT, or you can find me through shorecraftbeer.com. For stuff about homebrewing and about this show, you can find us at extremebrewing.com. That's extremebrewing.com or xtremebrewing.com. I've gotten so good at spelling that I was actually thinking about something else. I'm like, are you done spelling yet?
I always say whether you spell with an E or X, it's extremebrewing.com.
There you go. And any classes coming up?
Nothing planned because we got too many events. Festival this weekend. We've got the wine festival next weekend. The following weekend is the Ocean City event, and then the Booby Q over at the Inlet.
So there are plenty of festivals, and you can check out all of that stuff with us here. And then until next week,
drink what you like and be happy, and then go to the festival and come see us.
All right, bye, folks.